This has been a great delight to sit through and see and soak a large number of wonderful ideas, excellent presentations, and more than above, the great interest and the enthusiasm, which at least I'm convinced that the future take cares are there and things will improve. I think very detailed presentations have been made, and the tone was set by the address of the Minister of Road Transport, Shri Nitin Gadkari ji, who was listing a wide range of technologies and practical applications through which carbon emission can be reduced and contained. And other presentations have equally given details as to how decarbonization can be taken care of in steps, progressively and successively. You know, speed has a very important, and time is a very big dimension. And I think you cannot lose sight of this. There are a large number of other social interfaces about which we were reminded of. First of all, ESG, which was the last one. And also in between, I think Minister also mentioned about socio-economic realities, which has to be, one has to be completely aware of, and therefore comparing one country, one technology, what is success, there cannot be automatically be success in another setup and scenario. So I think these are realities. As regard India goes, I think right from 72, which was the fountain for international diplomacy, till today, we have been behaving very responsibly. And our total pressure on the global carbon budget has not been very high. We are very, very much on a very lower scale on a global carbon emission. But at the same time, our problems are very complex. And these complex problems are because of the three very complicated global problems. Important among them is climate and nature, biodiversity loss, pollution and waste. And these are further complicated and compounded enormously by the successive wave of the viral disease COVID-19, which has shaken up the complete economic system of the globe. And every country is suffering from it. Supply lines have been disturbed. And we are pushing, or at least the situation has pushed the global community into an entirely risk horizon to which we are not aware and not prepared at all. At what rate we decarbonize will spell our success. Will it go at a slow pace, or will it be fast enough, will decide our success. Over a period of time, definitely we are going to improve on our performance, but at what speed? So I think this is very important. The time dimension, to my mind, in all our talks must find a place and must be considered. The second point that I want to say is that I have heard many times that we have got three pillars. That is social, environmental, and economic. Ladies and gentlemen, think very carefully. Are these pillars? Can they be equated? And I think this equation holds us back to take the environmental issues the seriousness with which they deserve. To begin with, people used to think like that. But I think now evidence is being forced upon us from all directions that social system and economic system are very small subsystem of environment. And as long as you compare a subsystem with a larger system, I think our vision is going to be distorted. There is another myth that environmental issues are roadblock to economic progress. And I think most of the people have been, literature is full of these observations. The time has come to examine it very carefully. Is it so? I think our friend was mentioning about ESG. And he says that the companies which have a high ESG rating have a greater chance of surviving in future than the companies which disregard this dimension. They are destined to vanish. After all their resources come from environment, all their waste goes to the environment, and all what they produce is nothing but a delayed waste. Let us take TV, old models, your mobile phones. What they are doing? They are producing a kind of material which a very short period of time gives you service, then it is a waste and a burden. So if a company is consistently producing a material which ultimately is going to be your burden, and you consider that this is economically very viable and it gives you an addition to your economic growth, I think time has come for us to think again and examine very carefully, is it so? So I think this is another point that I want to make. And at this very last hour where all of us are exhausted, I have no intention of engaging you any further. You have enough material to reflect, and a very excellent talks were there, which has given you enough to reflect, synthesize, and draw lessons. There are one or two things that I want to also make a mention. One is the fragility of the current net zero path has to be very carefully looked at. It is not that robust as perhaps it is given to understand. It is very fragile. Anything can upset it. In fact, a perfect roadmap doesn't exist. It is a thought on which every one of us is contributing and contributing to the best of our ability. Previous models have always been there, which have given us a lot of direction. But the climate change and its consequences always given us surprise of things which were not predicted by models. And therefore, we are in an environment of uncertainty. And this uncertainty is going to grow. And therefore, we have to develop ways and means of taking decisions which take into account the available evidence of science, but at the same time has a long-term perspective. Now, this is something which is not taught, but this has to be something which needs to be developed, which I think the minister has said is out-of-box thinking. So I think the out-of-box thinking is needed, quick action is needed. You can't wait. Particularly as an academician, I will say that I have a great greed for more data. And when I collect more data, then I have greed of collecting more data. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the global system is too complicated that ever you will get all the data that you need. So I think you have to take decision in data-deficient scenario always. And therefore, the conventional way of the economic system, where you have economic metrics and some data, and you try to project, those things are not there. It is entirely a different kind of a managerial, or I should say, action plan that need to be evolved. The time has come to do that, failing which the climate change is not going to wait. You can take your own time, but the climate change is not going to wait. So the onslaught is coming very rapidly and very fast. Already you will see, and you are witnessing, you see the news. I think yesterday only there was a news bulletin which I had a chance to look at. WION News? Yeah, I think, yes. And the lady was saying that people are complaining that the news is always very negative, and there is a trend that people don't want to view the news anymore because it's all so negative. And she said that it is a reflection of the time. How can I not report that people are dying of hunger? They are not getting their food. The food supply is not there. They are dying of disease. There is nobody to take care. And we have seen that the vaccine apartheid was there. So everybody is becoming very, very, I should say, inward-looking, self-interest, myopic, and now they are becoming ultra-myopic, and they want to solve the global problem. Every year, like a ritual, we go there, we make commitment, we don't fulfill our commitment, and we change the narrative every time. At Paris, our narrative was different. Then at Glasgow, we have changed the narrative. At Paris, we have not talked of net zero and all these kinds of things. I will not dwell any further on this, I have said. But I want to say two things. Whatever India may do, India cannot solve climate change. India alone cannot solve attrition of biodiversity. And India cannot solve the problem of pandemic alone. And the world also cannot solve these problems without India. So I think here is a problem that not only you have to solve and you have to provide yourself with an example for others, but you have to prevail on others to really join and do that extra. For the developed countries, it is not question of net zero. They have to go something which can be called as minus zero to really come at par with the kind of commitment and the kind of readiness that the India is showing. And unless that happens, I think, as I have said, that the path for sustainable growth and net zero is very fragile. I don't want to speak pessimistic. I'm only saying that these realities have to be kept in mind, and then we should really negotiate and we should really work hard. We should not feel complacent that we have done well. We must continue to improve. We have a large burden of our people. We have many mouths to feed, and we have to improve their quality of life, and so on. Sharmaji has shown that when we reach at the stage of, so who decides that what should be the quality of life? Since when we can decide for our people? Is the American way of life is the right quality of life? You see the number of kind of social problems and the kind of other mental problems that they are suffering from. You see the number of apnea clinics that the United States have. I don't know what we are talking of quality of life. A quality of life is the contentment that you feel happy. You are free to enlighten yourself, or something like this. At least I am not qualified to talk much about it, but the material possession, having 4 televisions in a house and everything controlled by a remote control, is not the quality of life. And last point I will say, nature works on decentralized system. While we are trying to really work and provide solace and progress to the world as well as to ourselves by centralizing symptoms. So I think here is a question which needs to be examined and worthy of discussion. Thank you very much. I will always wish you very best, and the enthusiasm that you people have, that you are sitting here and able to listen to me, which I am speaking off the cuff, and which I do not know whether sitting here I have even had enough time to reflect on the issues that have been discussed, because there were so many wonderful ideas and so many detailed ideas were listed here, which was very encouraging. The only thing is that we have to act fast. And for this, research allocation and great support to the teaching of environment and ecology must become a great focus of any new learning program to meet these emerging challenges for which there is no track record with us. Thank you very much.